All right, Chaz Smith. It is the grid. It is November 3rd, 2023.
Happy post Halloween, David Lee Scales.
I see that you are still dressed as Luke Stedman.
I kept it going. I liked it so much that I decided that, I'm gonna play this out. People don't they do their costumes and then they put their costumes away. It's one night. All that work for one night. I went to all the work to look like Luke Stedman, and I thought, you know what? I'm gonna let this ride. I'm gonna get
Smart.
my money's worth for my costume.
Smart. Real dedication to the role.
Yeah, thank you.
What's Luke Stedman up to?
Luke's dead. I was walking the other day, walking with the family, and I saw his wife and babies on the street, like just literally like four houses away, playing or whatever they were walking to. And then I look up a little gravel road, and I was like, that guy looks exactly like Luke Stedman. And then lo and behold, it was Luke Stedman. So Luke Stedman had a like surf coaching company, I think, that Surfline bought. And so he came to work for Surfline, except I just heard that now he's no longer with Surfline. And so I think he has his company back. I think it's called Blackball or something.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I had no clue. I mean, I knew he was doing the surf coaching thing, but why would
Yeah.
Surfline buy it? Or, I mean, it wasn't like, I shouldn't say why would they buy it. I would not expect them to buy it. It's not like it was a huge taking over the world, or maybe it was, and I was unaware of it.
I think Surfline's big plan was to, in fact, take over the world when they got all that finance money.
Yeah.
I think their plan was like the home of basically all things practical surf. So this is where you go for your surf instruction, for your, obviously your wave cams and all that, and blah blah blah. And then I think they got all that money, and I think those guys kicked the tires on surf and realized, this is only my interpretation, but realized the only thing that's valuable is the surf cams. That is the only thing that people care about. And so they just fired everyone. Like Surfline has been purged.
Crazy. Okay.
Hmm.
So did he move from Australia for this?
He was only here for part time. I think they are on their way home even as we speak. I think they were here for like 6 weeks or something like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. I need to know more about the business side of it. So they buy his thing and now
Yeah.
he has it back. So did he purchase it back?
No, I think they gave it back to him. I think there was you know, yeah.
Clause or a timeline or something?
I mean, who knows? Or maybe they were just being kind. Maybe they knew like Ross Garrett is the new CEO. And so maybe they're like, look, we made all these moves and now, our money. I mean, that's the thing. I think you get a bunch of money and you think, woohoo, we get to do it. And then all of a sudden you are completely and utterly beholden to that money. Like the
Yeah.
people who gave them that money are cutthroat. We are going to see return on investment times X, and we are going to make that, right? And so don't care about your dreams, don't care about your fun community, don't care about what you're trying to do. If it's not turning like record profit instantly, then we're completely changing. Like I think they looked at the books, they figured it all out to be cams. This is it. We are a cams place. We're not even a forecast place. I heard from some people who, I won't say which region they worked, but they worked in a region for Surfline and said Surfline had cut their whole office by 60%. All
Right.
forecasters sacked. They're not even going to really do forecasting anymore. They're just going to have like generic forecasts because they've determined, I suppose, that people don't use that. People only want the cams.
Yeah. I think there was a listener maybe who chimed in with that a while back.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Well, how many people even know listening to this podcast even know who Luke Stedman is?
Well, that's everyone should know. Everyone, please go look up Luke Stedman, the handsomest professional surfer to ever walk the face of the earth.
Yeah, there really was. I mean, we grew up in a great era in
We
surfing
sure
where there was
did.
so many great personalities that were able to make a living. I mean, he might have actually tried competition for a while.
He
I don't
did. He was
remember.
the 11th best surfer in the world in like 2006 or something. He was a
Okay.
mainstay on the CT of the ASP.
I think
Like,
of him more as like a free surfer.
yeah, no, he
Even
was a CT surfer for years.
there's just my point was going to be that there's just so many great personalities in the surf world for a period of time.
Well, back then you could have a great personality and be on the CT. Those things were not mutually exclusive like they are today.
Great
Now
point.
it's like you are boring and dull and you can be surf on the WSL, or you have any kind of flair and you're not on the WSL.
Well, we've probably said it before, but it's related to money. Like
Yeah.
there is so much money now from such a young age, and your handlers are also earning commissions off of that money that you're earning. And so everybody wants to toe the line and walk on the side of the line that is safe and going to keep that money flowing. And back then, no, there wasn't enough of a paycheck attached to any of it. And the brands were small and they had a very specific identity. So if they're paying you 60,000 bucks, look, you can gamble with the 60. It's like,
Yeah.
I can replace the 60 if this doesn't go well. It's not millions of dollars.
Luke, he and family came over pregame Halloween here. We actually trick-or-treated together. Me as Luke Stemman. Confusing to everyone. It was like, wow, a lot of double takes. But he told the story again, and I'd only heard it from Derek. His dad, Luke's dad, who's a surfboard shaper, actually founded Uggs,
That's
Ugg
right.
boots. And as the story goes, as Luke told it, it's very, very funny. So Luke's dad was a surfboard shaper, or is a surfboard shaper. One day in his shop, I think it was in Victoria, in his shaping bay, a guy came in who basically had lamb's wool, like, whatever you think of as an Ugg, except it wasn't an actual boot. It was just like duct tape to his feet. And he was like, these are great. They're warm, they can get whatever. And so uh, I don't know if his dad developed it to what it is, but bought the name Ugg for like America, had the whole license, had everything. And then Decker shoes. So yeah, he must have just had certain territories, but they got sold to a big company, the thing, but they didn't have America. And I think he had America, Europe, and somewhere else, like the important ones, territories. So they went to him and they said, hey, how about you sell for $30,000? And Luke Stedman's dad said, yes, I am rich, but he really twisted him with a caveat. I get 4 free pairs of Uggs a year from here on out. And, and Luke says that his dad relishes every year he calls and he gets his 4 free pairs and just relishes that moment. Does
He
not care at
still
all.
thinks it's a great deal.
He does not care. Yeah, he's like, what? This is like Uggs is worth of whatever billion, however many billions of dollars it's worth. Luke Stedman's dad does not care. He's just like, well, whatever, easy come, easy go. But also, I get my 4 free pairs a year.
Well, he's doing the math. He goes, Uggs are $200 a pair now. They're
Yep,
incredibly expensive. That's $800 all told. I am killing it.
forever, forever. Yeah, it's really, really funny.
Man, who needs 4 pairs of Uggs, by the way, throughout a year?
I know. I mean, I'm sure everybody gets, or 4 of his family, or 3
Yeah.
of his family members get Uggs for Christmas that year.
Yeah. Wow. That is quite the story. What a great
Very, very.
personality.
I mean, totally. For the like, that's aspirational and inspirational right there. To be the guy who doesn't let your bad choices get in the way of your chipper personality moving forward. So, yeah, that's what happened. Pretty funny.
Beautiful perspective because it wasn't a bad choice.
No.
However much effort he put into growing that, maybe it was, let's say, 300 hours. And so divide that by the 30,000 bucks and that's your hourly rate. It's well worth it. He's doing, it was a adequate payday. But so many people, we've talked about the lotto curse in the past, where they get a windfall and their perspective changes almost instantly and they only see the shortcoming of the windfall.
I mean, and that the curse, the lotto curse, even goes out and affects podcasters who didn't even get the money. These podcasters talk about it and then lose sponsorship because of it.
We got screwed on that deal, man. All right. Well, in the spirit of Halloween and committing to the costume, here comes an email. Dear David and Chaz, I was mid sits Pinklin the other day, mindlessly scrolling IG, and to my delight, came across Evan Mock's Instagram story displaying his Halloween costume, zombie faced, complete with white t-shirt and the words, I like turtles, written in Sharpie across the front. See the attached photos. I immediately end spinkled, stood up like the man I once was, and raced to report this hot goss grit word. So, what do you guys make of Evan mocking so brazenly the goat as part of his Halloween costume? Could he be a student of Grit University or simply a Turt Moon sandal enjoyer just being a wee bit silly? Silly is spelled capital SLLY. Or is he yet another example of elite board writings, great minds bravely using his platform to inform the masses that turtles have been tread on by capitalist structures for too long, and that we should not allow the sandal industrial complex to continue profiteering to the moon and back at the expense of poor defenseless turts any longer? I mean, you may have to read between the lines a little, but I'm pretty sure that's what he's saying. Anyway, whatever is, I trust you guys will be able to get to flip through the flop and get to the soul of this. As always, keep up the work, Gene.
Gene, very, very, very funny. Well done.
Really well constructed.
I mean, brilliant.
And I presume Gene is well aware, but the zombie kid is what Evan Mock was referencing with that costume. I don't think he is a podcast listener referencing the goat.
But you never, ever know, David Lee Scales. You never know. I feel that meme had died, more or less. It had gone to the place where memes go when they no longer recirculate, until Kelly Slater made his sandal and you tied the two together. Then we were back. I think we resurrected that meme.
And then, yeah, I mean, we pushed it back out of oblivion, and it's now kind of making, that could be.
Because Evan Mock, why would Evan Mock dress like a meme from it was like 15 years ago? It was like one of the very first. Why would you dress?
But then Daniel Tosh interviewed the kid now.
But that was still like 8 years ago or something. I think the Daniel Tosh interview was a while ago.
Well, I can't speak to or for Evan Mock, but I can speak for Totally Shadical, who tagged us in an Instagram post with the zombie face and with the actual Turtle Moon sandals on his shirt as well. So it was specifically a Kelly poke.
Epic.
And Totally Shadical actually called in with a Pros in the Wild story, if you would like to hear it.
Yes, please.
Totally Shadical, one of the great Instagram names and really contributing to our work here.
What's happening, guys? This is for the grit. Totally Shadical here. My submission for Pros in the Wild, actually, my take on it is more like Bros in a Child instead of Pros in the Wild. And in this story, of course, I'm the child. This happened about early 2000s. I was managing a surf shop with the frothiest of young Grumps, and occasionally we'd surf different spots. I talked these guys into surfing lowers one day before the CT. I said, hey, this is no hero worship bullshit. We're going out there in the element with these bros, and we're just going to watch these guys rip, okay? Hopefully catch a couple waves here and there. I find myself in between Mick White Lightning Fanning and Pat O. Believe it or not, Mick went left. I'm sandwiched in the middle, and me and Pat O go right. I call Pat O off the wave. He pulls out instantly. I proceed to tear this wave a new asshole. Up, down, side to side, 12 o'clock, just ripping the shit out of the wave in my mind. Now, of course, we all know that didn't happen. It was probably a complete embarrassment as to what really happened. But, you know, it was an absolutely great wave. And I'm paddling back out from this wave. And what do I see coming at me? What? Well, is it? No, could it be? Oh, shit. I got to call you back. I got stuck in the middle of a police chase. Delete this call. Haha, I'm going to try this again. I just got stuck in
So that was one call. He calls back.
the gnarliest police chase. It was absolutely wild. It could be a phone conversation in itself. Anyway, this is for the grit. And this is my take on Pros in the Wild. And in my version of it, it's going to be like Bros and a Child. And I'm actually the child in this story,
He goes through,
which
starts from
probably isn't
scratch,
too
and
surprising
gives us the
with so
whole
much asphalt
story
called in
again.
before.
I'll
Anyway,
fast forward a little
this
bit.
is early 2000s. I'm managing this surf shop full speed ahead. I was absolutely on fire in my own mind. And in reality, it probably was absolutely gross, which I don't give a fuck about, because it was super, super fun. And I spin back around and way on the inside, and way in the distance, could it be? Is it? Bah. Fuck, I think it is. I like turtles. It's the goat coming at me full speed. He's so far off in the distance. I'm like, this is absolutely amazing. I find myself not even paddling, just watching him, kind of mesmerized. And like I said, it's early 2000s. Seeing a goat sighting back then was kind of a big deal. And you always wondered when you saw him live, like, is he going to live up to the potential of the goat? Well, he ended up just annihilating this wave. I need to remember when I called.
So his call got cut off because there's a 3-minute limit. So after he retells the whole story, he got cut off right there with the goat annihilating the wave. He now calls back to give the final portion of the story.
And I'm always so long-winded. Anyway, the goat's coming towards me. I'm paddling to duck dive to get out of the way because I realize I'm cutting it way too close. He pops a 360 air over me. I turn around, he lands it and keeps going. It absolutely was one of the raddest in-water experience I've ever had. Like a real live video part with what seemed to be like me and Kelly only in the water. Probably one of the raddest things I've seen in real life as far as pro surfing. And, you know, like I said, I'm the child in this story. I'm the guy down there, not trying to get in the way of the pros, trying to earn some money, just trying to see the real deal. And it ended up being a blast. Anyway, that's my version of Bros and a Child. Keep up the work, boys.
Totally shadical.
Totally shadical. Thank you for the work. That was brilliant. But now I need a callback. I want to know what exactly happened during that chase.
Yeah, true. I thought he was getting pulled over.
I mean, I did. It really sounded like, or I didn't know that he was in his car. I was assuming his house was getting raided by the feds.
Totally shadical with his first appearance on the podcast, coming in strong. He had the Halloween submission via DM, and then this call, pretty epic.
Brilliant.
I love the fact that he split the peak with Mick Fanning. He's sandwiched between Fanning and Pat. Who would ever guess Mick Fanning would go left at lowers, first of all? Yeah. But then the fact that Pat pulls out instantly after being called off, I would expect nothing less of Pat.
Pat is a gentleman and a scholar. He is one of the kindest, most genuine persons you will ever come across.
Completely agree. Yeah, I was curious where the direction of the story was going, or who was going to be the official pro in the wild that the story is centered around. And when he says Pat takes off in front of him, I'm like, ooh, I hope this isn't Pat burning him and them having some altercation. I can't even imagine a universe where that would even happen.
Of course.
And when he says Pat instantly kicks out, I go, of course, everything is right.
Obviously. I think we can point together to 100 different ways and times the WSL went wrong. I feel where they went most wrong, most quickly, is when Pat was given the position of what was his position then? It was commissioner,
maybe.
Yeah. So when they gave him commissioner, they should have given him basically all power to run the tour the way he saw fit, right? They should have said, hey, we don't know anything. We literally don't know anything. Pat, you seem like you know some stuff here. We are giving you the keys and we're letting you drive. We're letting Pat cook here. They clearly didn't, and it all like blew up to what it is, like idiocy that it is today. But I reckon that Pat O'Connell, he's respected by the surfers, respected by everyone, respected by the media, respected, and knows what he's doing. And they should have let Pat cook.
I think they did the exact opposite, which is almost gave him zero power.
Yeah, no, I think
they said, we're going to put you in this position of power. actually tie your hands behind your back, but utilize your street cred to get other people to think that we're doing the right thing.
Exactly. I mean, how ruthless. I feel they've done this a lot, the World Surf League. They take a person who's respected. They say, we don't actually, how you came to be respected or why you're respected, we're not interested in. We're only like, they never pause to think, oh, wait, why did we want Pat in the first place? Because he's respected. Well, how did Pat get respected? No, it's not that. It's, we want your respect. We will take your respect. We will use it. We will tarnish it. And then we will do it so badly that you will leave.
Exactly. I think if their goal was to run the best surfers and the best waves in the world, they would actually take Pat's advice.
Yeah.
But that was never their goal. Their goal was to go this direction, but just kind of put props up to make people think that they are giving them what they want, giving the audience what they want.
Well, at least we still have Kaipo.
I do have another listener line call that is actually pretty timely. But I want to just point out, we were talking about the tweaker stealing keys and different ways to kind of use your key fob without, where do you stash your key at this in the modern world, right?
Yep.
Somebody called in to say they took our advice. They were visiting from Kauai, Southern California. They stashed the key in a towel, but not in an obvious place. They hid it under a little bit of bush or brush and were able to surf, no problem. Got their key when they came back. No tweaker stole it. Somebody else, a couple of people chimed in to say tinfoil blocks the signal. So if you wrap your key in tinfoil, you can still use those lock boxes on the door of the car and the door doesn't recognize that the key's there.
The practical advice that our listeners share with each other. I mean, this is basically, the grit has become a utopia. This is a surf utopia.
It is. Well, other listeners were like, no, they have these amplifier signals that I guess you can get. So people could walk up, even if the key is in the lockbox, they could walk up and amplify the signal. Or if the key is like in the front of the car, like I said, where the car doesn't recognize that it's nearby, walk up with the amplifying signal and still open the car. Yeah. But I think the tinfoil will solve that. But then somebody else chimed in and said those lock boxes aren't safe. People know how to break through them and cut through them.
That's what I'm saying. I'm anti-lockbox here. I appreciate you for getting it, but for multiple reasons. One being, I do believe that if your key is in your lockbox and your car is stolen, the fact that your key was in a lockbox cancels out your insurance. You don't get insurance anymore. You are being flippant with your key. And so the whole point is so your car doesn't get stolen. But if your car gets stolen, not having insurance, like to have just losing it all, to me, that says no lockbox right there. And then the rest of it, ooh la la, I don't like them. I think hiding that key in my shoe.
Yeah, never admit to the insurance company the lockbox situation. That's a good piece of advice.
I think they suss it out, man. Those insurance adjusters are the smartest people in the entire world. If those insurance adjusters could be put to better use, like solving world hunger or anything at all, they would do it. Instead, they are there to fleece you, who's paying them good money, but they'll sort out every little thing you did wrong and not pay you money.
Insurance companies are the worst, and insurance adjusters are now right in kind of associated with criminal defense attorneys, maybe
they are like supervillains. They are properly. Oh, I take that back though. They are supervillains unless they're working for you. I had an insurance adjuster, like somebody. I backed into somebody in a parking lot, and it was. Yeah, I'm not going to say it was my fault, but let's pretend it was my fault.
Somebody backed into somebody.
The person, I was like, hey, whatever, we can just, what's the bill? And they sent me some outrageous, something silly. And I was like, okay, fine. I'm not about to do that. Let's just go to the insurance. The insurance adjuster figured out that they had been moving too. And so there was a 50-50 fault.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What's that diabolical laugh? I think that indicates who is at fault here.
I mean, it wasn't me. I mean, it was 50-50 me.
Okay. Well, here is another Pros in the Wild call.
Hey, David and Chaz. Greg from San Clemente got a Pros in the Wild story for you about Andy Irons. So I knew Andy in elementary school, lived over there for a few years, so wasn't super tight, but obviously small town. And would see him everywhere, and we were acquaintances. And he was always super nice in elementary school. But then I moved back to California, didn't stay in super good touch with him for a number of years. And then during college, I was back on Kauai during Thanksgiving break, caught a caught a wave at tunnels, and it was just a little shoulder half second barrel for me. Him and Reef McIntosh were sitting 20 yards deeper than us. I have no idea how they were sitting where they were. But yeah, I got a little 1 second barrel at most and came out, and Andy was like, "Yeah, Greg," gave me the biggest smile, biggest compliment. And even though it was obviously a super weak barrel compared to anything that he's ever done, he made me feel like I was on top of the world, man. And then fast forward, that was 2001. Then 2003 or four, I was in Huntington. It was during the U.S. Open. Andy was in the middle of his 3 titles, and we were at some place in Huntington, and I hopped in the limo with him because we had obviously a bunch of common friends, and even though I wasn't super tight with Andy, and I was, kind of felt like, I don't know if I'm invited on this whole limo scene, but I jumped in, and he's like, "Yeah," gave me the same, "Yeah, Greg," and made me feel so good, and just shows the person who he was. He had such a big heart, and yeah, miss him, and just wanted to kind of share that light on Andy and shed that light that he was such a good human and had such a big heart and was kind to everybody.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Greg, for sharing. Yeah, it was the 13th anniversary of Andy's. Was it of Andy's death? 13th anniversary? Yeah, just a couple days ago. Yeah,
yesterday,
crazy.
November 2nd, and this is a tribute that his wife posted on Instagram. She said, quote, "November 2nd, I can still hear your laugh. I can still see you dancing in Axel," which is their son, "and it feels like yesterday that you left. Andy taught me the most in my lifetime about how to live. He was the most authentically honest man that loved so hard and so deep. He made time for everyone and never treated anyone differently. He always made time for the kids, and he gave so much to the community of Kauai. He was so special. He worked so hard to achieve every single goal that he set out to achieve, and he did them all by the age of 32. He was an incredible athlete, and I will always be his biggest fan. We partied hard. We danced always. Makes me smile thinking of our wild times together. He had the very best time always. Andy was my best friend, and he gave me my forever best friend, Axel. Andy really lived every single day to the very fullest, and I do that with our Axel the best that I can. I will forever miss that raw, pure love from Andy. Forever blessed through the pain and that I got to experience such love. Hug and love your people hard. We aren't promised tomorrow."
Very poignant, Lindy Irons.
Totally. I mean, when you think back at that, that 32 years old is so young.
Yeah.
And having a pregnant wife that you leave behind is such a tragic, but also like poignant trajectory for this story to play out.
Yeah, I mean, it just makes it. I'm surprised, to be honest, that, I mean, I guess, what is it? But that Andy Irons film has not been made.
I know. I wonder who owns the rights to it.
I mean, sure, Lindy does. I mean, she would own his life rights, I would think.
Yeah, no, you're right, because Stab actually just did an article about who's being let go by Billabong or whatever, and they said that Billabong does pay the Irons family, and Lindy being the kind of executor of that.
Yeah,
they pay them every year licensing fees or whatever to use Andy's likeness. So yeah, that makes sense. But I'm just wondering, I would presume that she sold it to somebody at some point. Somebody holds the option on the film.
Oh yeah, I mean, you would imagine, or maybe she just, who knows? But it's, really in the rear view. The whole story kind of crystallizes. I mean, Andy's both life, his arc, what happened. I mean, what a time. What, like, a living through it. It was just, it felt like, it was a horrible tragedy and all that, but it just felt like another thing. But looking back, I mean, we haven't had anything like that in surf in a hot minute.
No, I mean, and certainly not at that level of superstardom,
Yep, exactly.
When Totally Shadical was talking about seeing Kelly surfing lowers, we've said this in the past, but it's worth restating, is just how the speed and the ferocity that a professional surfer surfs at is light years beyond what you've ever witnessed from your local pro. And Kelly then is light years beyond the other pros that you've seen in the wild, and how mind-blowing. I think that's what Totally Shadical was kind of pointing at, was just how mind-blowing it is to be in the water. Well, then Andy, and Kelly fits in this too, but Andy is on a different level, because it's one thing to see that speed and ferocity at lowers. It's different at double overhead Honolulu or overhead backdoor and pipeline, and see that's just a whole different unlocking of speed.
I mean, it's crazy. Yeah, like the fact that we surf and they surf, like that's all the same surfing. I mean, it is like we are doing two different things. It is like we are participating in a water sport, a water game, and they are participating in a different one. The degree of difference between is such.
Totally. Which is why we are always advocating for the WSL to run surfers in that style of surf.
Yeah, because to watch Felipe Toledo really rip small lowers out of the bag is cool. Like, I get it, but it's not, like when the waves get better, that radicalness gets better. And I suppose I am excited for Cloud Break this year, and hopefully they get it good. Like, to see the best in the world at that wave again, we've been deprived of that for a few years now.
Well, to see a section forming on a reef that would absolutely annihilate you or I or any mortal human being, and to see somebody like Andy bottom turning, staring straight up at it, and then going vert into it, it's like two unstoppable forces hitting one another,
or even seeing like a section that you and I, it would be a closeout for us. There's no way we could find the right line and maintain or generate enough speed to get through, especially to wave like Cloud Break, right? Where, I mean, some of those barrels look like there's no way that thing is so long, but those guys who know it, or girls too, who like can find that line and generate speed to basically, they're willing, asserting their will. And I guess exactly what you said about Andy going vert, right? They're asserting their will on a wave, on a powerful wave, right? Where I feel I'm always along for the ride on the wave. I've never once exerted my will on the wave. I have taken what the wave has given and tried to do the best I can with it. But those guys, like, I don't care what you're giving me, wave. I am going to show you what's what.
I usually take what the wave's giving me and then diminish it by a degree, by like 20 degrees. I'm like, oh, you want me to go trim? Nope. I'm going to wiggle really awkwardly and make this look terrible.
Like, back to Greg's call, like, and also Totally Shadical's call of like the average surfer's understanding of his averageness, and not that there's shame in it, but Shadical thinking what he was doing in his mind, but knowing it was absolutely not that, or Greg's little shoulder barrel out at tunnels, like all of us just like doing this thing. I mean, we're all surfers, and we've talked about this, I think, masochists to some degree, of continuing to do the thing that we know we're blowing. We know we're making this beautiful thing look bad. We make it look bad. I remember Jamie, I think I tweeted it for him. In fact, I think I came up with this back when I was doing Jamie O'Brien's Twitter. Did waves look better with me on them? And average surfer is blowing that beautiful moment. That wave is just fine by itself. You placing yourself there, and your wiggle, and your like wide stance, mistimed bottom turn, chased with a mistimed top turn. Everything is bad, but we just keep doing it. I mean, I guess it feels so good that we can't stop.
Yeah. The wave, an unmolested wave in nature, is the most beautiful thing.
It's so
Me
beautiful.
on it is a complete slap in the face of God's gift. It is a Kobe cattle being massaged with sake to full maturity, and then going through a horrific butchering process to give me this beautifully marbled ribeye, and then me zapping it in the microwave for 10 minutes until it is a chewy, an unchewable piece of cardboard.
Yep.
That cow wasted its life.
I mean, that is exactly it. Every wave I've ever surfed wasted its life for me. Just think, that wave made out at sea, hundreds of miles away. This storm whipped it up. It had to march all the way across the ocean, form up, keep going, keep going. You're almost there, wave. Could have been ridden by Kelly, could have been ridden by John, could have been ridden by anybody. That wave was ridden by me.
It could have been ridden by those to make a symphony of that is the violin, but then Kelly comes in playing the oboe.
Yep.
And the concert of instruments that you bring together for this magical moment that was designed by God himself, herself, whomever. And instead, we've got me riding the wrong piece of foam, right, with the wrong fins, with a pot belly poking out of my neoprene wetsuit. It is horrendous.
Real tragedy.
A real slap in the face. But you know what we are good at is giving advice.
That's true.
So let's get this show back on track with tools to live by, presented by Veyer Watches.
Love my Veyer watch, David Lee Scales. Even when I'm blowing it in the water, I know exactly how long I've been blowing it for because I got time on my wrist.
Beautiful. Here's the weird thing about it. Timeless. These are timeless pieces, yet perpetually timekeeping.
Who knew this thing? And I've said it before, and I'll say it again, and I will keep saying it because it gets more and more amazing every month that passes. I set my digital watches by my Veyer. Honestly and truly, for whatever reason, the oven light or the oven clock goes bad. I don't know why it goes bad, but I'll be thinking there's no way it's that time. I got a couple more minutes than that, and I'll look at my Veyer and be like, I'm late. And so I have to go back, and I've done this 2 or 3 times now, and reset my oven clock by my Veyer watch.
Wild times that we're living in.
Yep.
I know. So give the gift of style and sophistication this holiday season is what I would recommend you doing. It's already November. You got to start thinking about gift giving. Veyer will ship you the watch free shipping in the US, easy returns for if you need it to return for any reason, waterproof warranty, of course. These are engineered for the ocean. Veyer is spelled Vaer, and we will save you 15% with promo code Splendor15.
And get it done now. Imagine how glorious your whole holiday season will be when you've already got all your shopping done at the 1st of November.
Totally. And Jay Martinez, longtime contributor to the show, DM'd me a photo 2 weeks ago with his purchase, the Veyer on his wrist. And he's like, dude, thanks for the discount. Loving it. So
it's really great.
Yeah. So, hey, DLS and Chaz, I've got a submission for your tools to live by segment. I forgot to tell you, by the way, at the beginning, this is a grumpy local show. There's a theme of grumpy locals throughout this entire show.
But it seems so nice so far. It seems so pleasant. It doesn't seem grumpy. It seems uplifting.
From this point on, pure grump.
Great.
Okay. I've got a submission for tools to live by. I live in the Pacific Northwest. An important detail to this story is that, like many people who currently live here, I was not born here. Chaz, I think you'll be able to weigh in on that since you're from the Pacific Northwest. Quote, this morning while surfing an unnamed beach break, I had my first altercation since relocating to this part of the world. The waves were fun, but nothing to write home about or get aggressive about, in my opinion. I was paddling out roughly 100 yards or so south of a crew of locals, as there were plenty of waves to go around, and I generally tend to keep to myself anyways. One thing led to another, and due to the shifting tides and currents, I ended up a little closer to the crew. Perhaps I took one too many waves, which likely prompted one of the locals to approach me and ask, "Where are you visiting from?" Without giving the question a second thought, I just responded, "What makes you think I'm visiting?" This was clearly the worst thing I could have said to this person. He proceeded to light me up with all sorts of, "I'm from here and I don't know who you are. Why do you have to have an attitude? Why don't you paddle out somewhere else?" All whilst peppering plenty of F-bombs and the like. it became clear, obviously, that that the only reason this guy opened his mouth in the first place was because he felt that I needed to know that he was a true local and I was not. I'm definitely not a fighter, and I'm probably 15 to 20 years this guy's senior. So quickly raised my hands, apologized, and began to paddle down the beach in the opposite direction. The guy continued to follow me for a bit, sitting just inside and muttering to himself loudly enough that I'd hear him. Eventually, I worked my way far enough down the beach that he let me be. So my question here is, what should I have said or done? Is there anything I could have done to have changed the outcome? Was I in the wrong here, or was this guy just looking to get aggro? Love the podcast. Keep up the work. A.
That guy was just looking to get aggro. I'm going to say the Oregonian or Washingtonian, wherever you happen to have been in the Pacific Northwest. I was just up there, happened to be up there last weekend, I think it was.
It was last week, right after we recorded.
Yeah, back in my stomping grounds. And Eugene was in Eugene. I didn't grow up in Eugene, grew up in Coos Bay, but Eugene was the kind of big city. That's where University of Oregon is. That's who we played in sports. Marshfield High School would play the Eugene school. So anyway, it was in Eugene. Eugene's kind of a hippie town. Or kind of is a hippie town. And they have this Saturday market there, right? Which is like standard hippie fare. Like it's every Saturday, but all manner of tie-dye shirts and ceramic junk and some guy banging away on his guitar, singing some protest ballad about, it like literally has not changed. It is so ridiculous. The guy's song was like, oh no, some hippie shit. It's hippie shit, right? So anyway, went and saw the the married couple who was, I think she sold ceramic coin sock banks or something, and her dude did balloon animals, right? But they were like really intricate. So got my kid balloon animal, or a balloon ballerina. In fact, he made a ballerina out of balloons, which is cool. So dad, you can picture him doing balloons, tie-dye, overweight, Birkenstock, standard hippie thing. Wife, exactly the same, long, flowy hemp dress, whatever. And then kid sitting in the corner. Now, kid was straight gothed out. I don't know if it was a girl or a boy, but like a gothed out 12-year-old, shaggy black hair over eyes, painted fingernails, like, one of those, whatever, like rock and roll shirts, just sitting there, arms folded in the corner, thinking for sure, I hate my life. I hate my life. I hate my life. Now, all the way back to our caller, is it?
A.
So, I will say anyone good from the Pacific Northwest has hated their life and wanted to get out of the Pacific Northwest. The unrelenting gloom of winter, the freezing coldness of the water, all of it. You don't grow up in Oregon and think, killing it, living the dream. If you do think that, you got a major malfunction going on. Everyone gets out and they can come back. And I fully appreciate it now. I completely and utterly appreciate the Pacific Northwest. I can take in its beauty, all of it. Growing up there, I was that goth kid. I wasn't a gothy kid, but I wanted to, literally, my dream was to buy a B-52 bomber whenever I was going to get enough money, buy a B-52 bomber, fly over the Pacific Northwest and bomb it. Just just take out the entire coast. That's honestly how I felt. Now I go back and I think
very goth.
Yeah.
That is a very goth thought.
Now I go back and I think this is beautiful. And of course I look back too, what a great way to grow up. Not in Southern California, not in the busyness, but on my, I'm so thankful to my parents that I was raised in the Pacific Northwest. But I had to get out, right? All to say, this angry local guy didn't get out. He is the weird hippie balloon guy. So you need to disregard him. You had an attitude of, oh, you're the local. I'm sorry. I am in your space. I'll paddle out. You need to be more aggressive to him. Say, kook, I come from California, man. I come from the place you wished you were. Like, I'm here now and enjoying it, but you get down. Get back with your weird crew. Go play your weird protest songs.
I think you're right that the guy was just going to be aggro no matter what.
Sure.
And I do feel like our writer had a somewhat confrontational response. Like,
Yeah.
oh,
Who thinks I'm visiting?
yeah, what makes you think I'm a visitor? That is kind of prompting a probably negative response from the initiator, but he's probably going to bark no matter what, right? Like that's why he was paddling up to you. The barking is meant to deter you from coming back.
Yeah.
Right? So by you paddling down the beach, it worked. And by you having this after session angst, you're probably less likely to go surf there again. Even if it
Sure.
just gets you out of the water for one session, 1 week, you have to like work through your emotions before you go back. His barking worked. So the truth of the matter is, I think that there are people who are going to fight you no matter what. Like there's the people that are that erratic where they're like looking for a fight and they're going to create confrontations until somebody steps up and is willing to fight. So they're going to fight no matter what. There's people like you who are not going to fight no matter what. And then there's people who are going to end up fighting if things escalate. And so you giving that response might escalate the situation. It's good to hear that you're not a fighter, that you're going to try to de-escalate the situation, but it also means you don't have to leave. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to engage with it. You don't have to leave. If you aren't going to fight no matter what, then, and you stay there and just catch waves, ultimately it ruins his day. You going down the beach gives him what he wants. You not coming back gives him what he wants. You staying there, doing your own thing, catching waves is going to ruin his day. He's the one who's going to go home and not sleep over it.
And it's my wonderful mother always said, it takes two to fight, right? And it truly does take two to fight. I think it's particularly in the surf. Like you can take his barking and you can be like, hey, I'm sorry, whatever. Yeah, I moved. I live in such and such wherever now, and I moved up from blah blah. And there's always a way to kind of de-escalate. And he could still be mad. You fucking California is cool, right. Whatever. And that's fine. You could sit there and take it. Yeah. But if you don't leave and you force him to like paddle into your face, and rarely there are truly crazy people, but rarely if you just stay, will somebody come up and start beating you up if you don't, start swinging too, or take an aggressive pose. If you're just sitting there and he could be saying, get out, paddle in, get out and whatever. And you say, you can hem and haw and whatever. But if you're just there, rarely will somebody actually take action.
Cooler heads prevail. It's just so rare for people to have a cool head.
It's hard when you're getting berated by a local for being unlocal.
Totally. But if you, like we said, are not going to fight no matter what, then you have to have a thick skin, of course, to take the berating. But if you have a thick head and a willingness to face the or thick skin and a willingness
thick head too.
Yeah. Thick-headed and willingness to face the adversity, I just keep catching waves. And again, the more that he gets in your face and looks aggressive, the more of a dick he starts to feel like. And sure, he's going to burn you on a wave. If he burns you on 10 waves, he then looks insane.
Sure.
And he starts looking insane to his friends as well.
Even amongst his friend group. Yeah. Like rarely, yeah. I mean, yeah.
You could drive him insane simply by staying, not barking back. And I like your tact too of just answering the questions. Yeah. Hey, where are you from? Well, I originally was from California, but now I live in, name the city that you live in up there. It's not like you have to give him your address, but just name the city. What does he say to that?
Yeah, he's like, you fucking California, I'm so sick of it. And I'm sure it is annoying, right? For sure. Californians or Floridians, like when I was up at the Saturday market, there was some hippied out person. See, this is the problem here. There was some hippied out person in a booth selling who knows what matter of handmade jewelry. And I overheard him say to somebody else, oh, I'm from Florida, right? And so I'm thinking, yeah, okay, you're from Florida and you came and you're acting local, you're putting it on, right? Like to me, you are where you're from. California dude, if he goes up to Oregon and puts on his flannel and his, working boots and like rubs sawdust in it. Yeah, funny enough, I was riding up there on the plane ride up. There was some dude sitting at the bar before, like the very picture of Oregon hick. And he had like even suspenders on, like he was smelled of fresh cut wood. I mean, he was, a shaggy beard. He was like classic Oregon. asked him, he had a big book, and I was thinking, oh, this is farmer's reading. So I struck up a conversation with him. I'm to find out he's a goat farmer up outside of Portland, somewhere, he has acreage, blah, 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 blah. Get to talking, and I was thinking, oh, this guy's like, multi-generational Oregon bro. Nope, he was from wherever, from San Diego, and had been up in Oregon for whatever, 10 years or something. But fully inbred, I'm like, you kook. Like, I mean, I'm glad you like it. I'm glad you like your Oregon cosplay. That's wonderful. But it's what it is cosplay. You are where you're from. And I always just think, here's a tool to live by. You need to just embrace where you're from. You can't change that. That was decided for you by your parents. And that's just the cards you were dealt. You can't move somewhere. If I moved to Paris and started acting Parisian, started wearing an ascot and or go to Rome and bought myself a Vespa. And those are the people who are goofy, right? Yeah. I will forever be an Oregonian who has now spent the last, 20 odd years of my life in California. That's who I am. I can't act anything other than that.
Yeah. So interesting to think about the sociology of it, because Southern California was all transients, and was now the population is a mixed, stew of all of the different nationalities of the world that kind of came together, and that's now Southern California.
Sure.
Probably how a lot of places work.
Yeah, that stew is that, right? Like Oregon guy who is cosplaying as an Oregon goat farmer. Like I could tell he probably wanted that multi-generational, my family's been tilling the soil up in Oregon since they came out on the trail back in 1872, blah, 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 right? Like I get the longing for that, but if you don't have it, you don't have it, man. I am a mutt. I don't have any good heritage. I think my family is German, like 40% German, 60% British, and I'm an American mutt, an American West Coast mutt, which is way muddier than an East Coast mutt, which has everybody I know on the East Coast, every single person I know on the East Coast, except for Florida, has like generational something. There's somebody in their family has lived in some town since God made America. Like it is, but we don't have that. So we don't have it. Sorry, we can't fake it.
Do you remember the game Oregon Trail?
Yeah, of course.
On the computer, like with DOS. It was like a DOS operating system. And you die of dysentery.
It was really hard. Like you would think, because I remember playing it in 5th grade and we would play it as part of our curriculum
for children.
Yeah. But it was like part of school. It was like educational about, you had to plan, but it was impossible. Like you're guaranteed somebody in your family was dying of dysentery, like full stop. And then probably you. And if you died or whatever, like if you starved to death, whatever happened, game over, man. It's not like second chances. You were gonna die, but then the doctor came and gave you a vial of medicine. No, you were done. And I remember just having to sit there, like getting killed and just sitting there watching everybody else play. It's like, oh, I'm dead, man.
Well, the fact that all of America's youth learned the word dysentery when they were in 3rd grade is like such a weird reflection of our culture.
Oh, man, I will tell you, though, they were accurate. Dysentery. I had dysentery and it almost killed me.
Oof. Where did you get dysentery?
I got dysentery I think I contracted it in Egypt, but the symptoms came on in Aqaba, Jordan. And I was in a hospital for a good 6 days or 7 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
dysentery,
crazy.
Man. Who knew?
Who knew it was still around?
Oregon Trail creators knew.
Talking about your going to the farmer's market or whatever, the Saturday market, and seeing all that stuff. You want to hear the exact opposite of that example is Newport Coast. Do you know Rogers Gardens?
No.
Rogers Garden there's a restaurant, I think, called the Farmhouse, but Rogers Garden is a permanent what you're talking about. Like it's kind of like probably started as a farmer's market way back when, and people selling not just food, but goods, things that they make. And then it became like a permanent structure, but it's on Newport Coast. So it's like the most expensive real estate. So it is now tchotchke type things, textile type things that you're talking about, but fancy versions of it,
but
essentially.
For people who live on Balboa.
Exactly. So you want like a hand crocheted pillow, you can go there and get it, or
Okay.
what, or some fancy candle or something. And then there's the farmhouse. You can have lunch there, and it's wildly expensive. Lauren went to go because they decorate it for the holidays and stuff. So Lauren went to go with her sisters a week ago. She comes back. She goes, I wanted to buy this pumpkin. It was really cute. It was like paper mache. Austin loves pumpkins. It was just the size of a pumpkin, made out of paper mache, painted. She goes, I picked it up because I was going to buy it. And then I saw the price tag. Guess what the price was?
A literal paper mache pumpkin.
Correct. Hand painted paper mache pumpkin.
I'm going to say it can't be any more than $35. 35 would be
$1,000.
What? How's that?
$1,000.
How's that?
Because apparently it's some artist, quote unquote, who does the hand painting, and everyone is new or bespoke and one of a kind.
That is ridiculous. That is epic. That is an epic little yeah, that is an epic.
When she made me guess, I'm like, okay, she didn't buy it. So what is her threshold?
Yeah. So if she didn't buy it, I would have said probably 100.
Yeah. I think it was like $85.
Yeah.
It's got to be it, and maybe I added to, I was like 85. Okay. Maybe $100.
Yeah.
$1,000
US dollars. That's crazy town. That is crazy town.
I mean, it is the exact opposite of Portland, Oregon, or Eugene, Oregon, even.
Totally. Yeah. No,
example.
I bought everything. I just kept going around buying all kind of, everybody wanted hippie shit that day. So I got a truckload for $20.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, anyways, that is our advice for in the Pacific Northwest. Kill him with kindness, make him feel stupid. I think that's the fastest way to de-escalate the situation.
A tool to live by for sure.
And you can save 15% on a Vaer watch with using promo code Splendor15 on VAERwatches.com. I said that this was going to be a grumpy show. Guess what? We have a grumpy call.
Yes.
From a listener. How are you doing on time today?
I'm great.
Okay, cool. Let's go to the listener line.
Chaz and David, here's my hardcore local in the wild story. As a 20-year-old kid growing up, Gulf Coast of Mexico, surfed my home break a ton, and then had a buddy in the town over who surfed this pier a bunch, invited me up for a little swell. Mind you, this is 1 to 3 foot shitty Gulf Coast surf. Anywho, we're out there surfing, bobbing around. I go and take one of the better, like, little 3-footers, and a grumpy local enforcer guy drops in on me. I figured there was nothing wrong here, but we popped out the back, and this dude was pissed, yelling at me, "Who are you? Haven't seen you around here. Hey, kid, maybe get lost." I was ready to, like, walk in like this was like pipe or something. Again, 3-foot shitty Gulf Coast. I go to my buddy and I'm like, "Hey, well, what the hell was that, man? He dropped in on me." He goes, "Yeah, but you don't drop in on that guy, blah, blah, blah." I said, "I didn't do anything wrong." Anywho, fast forward a year later, turn 21, go out to a bar. Who's our bartender? The grumpy enforcer local dude. And I get crafty real quick. He looks at me side-eyed and I said, "Hey, man, what's happening? Remember that time, you burned me, but it was all good. We had a laugh about it." And he immediately turned his grin into a smirk and he said, "Ah, yeah, it's water under the bridge. Let's have a beer." And ever since that day, me and the grumpy local have been good friends and gone on surf trips together. And you can always turn it around, boys and girls. So keep up the work and keep on the right side of the local grumpy enforcer. Cheers.
Thoughts on that?
It's a beautiful show today, David Lee Scales. This is maybe our most positive, heartwarming show yet.
It's the holiday season,
It is. But yeah, like I was thinking as he was talking, like we all now, I think, as a community with as a surf community, have understood the importance of a grumpy local, right? I think this in the World Surf League, World Surf Leagueification, the chaos that we see with the post-COVID Val apocalypse, all of it. We have all recognized now as true core surfers the value and importance of a grumpy local. So I would suggest next time a grumpy local enforcer drops in on you and gives you hell, any listener, say thank you sincerely for your work. Thank you, grumpy local. I think it's time, when like servicemen, people in the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, when they're walking through the airport or whatever, and people are always, thank you for your service. Great. It's a great, kind thing to do. I think that's what we need to do now for that grumpy local has been in the service. He has lived in his grumpy little town. He has surfed that wave, good, bad, and ugly. He is there. We need to thank the grumpy local for his service next time we get beat down. Same thing could have happened to A up in Oregon. He could have just bowed his head, said, sir, thank you. You are doing the work. You are out here doing the work daily, keeping order, and I truly thank you for your work.
It's a great point. But my concern with our caller here is that maybe he ungrumpied the local. They're going on surf trips. So he's actually, our listener did a disservice. He took one grumpy local and out of the water, replaced him with probably a Sitz Pinklin jolly bartender.
That is really, really, really true.
Mistake.
Don't get friendly with the grumpy local.
Keep them grumpy.
Keep them grumpy. So say, thank you for your service. Fuck you.
Thank you for your service. Then go wax their windows. Don't tip him at the bar.
Don't tip him. Yeah.
That's how you keep him pissed.
Right on his tip too. That one wave, bro. That one wave you stole on me. Just write that in the tip line. Zero it out. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
We should
also do a ranking of jobs that have the highest level of power and the lowest level of pay.
Yes.
Like there are certain things, like a bouncer, for example.
I was going to say a bouncer at like a popular but crap club.
Totally. Where they're just going to wield that power. They're like, this is the one time in my life where I am the man. And I'm going to let you know.
Maitre d' at a restaurant and or the girl up there doing the reservations. Reservation girl at the restaurant.
Oh, I mean, to be perfectly honest, that's it. That's the top of the heap right there, is the 22-year-old hostess in a fancy restaurant where it's expense accounts that are generally paying the bill. So it's wealthy white dudes essentially paying the bill, because here's the difference. The wealthy white dude doesn't give a crap about the bouncer. Like he is going to get relegated to the back of the line or whatever, but he doesn't actually respect the bouncer.
No.
The wealthy white dude at the fancy restaurant will forget about the small fortune that he earned. That he's going to have to give half of it away. He'll forget about his wife and kid of 20 plus years, and he would drop everything for the 22-year-old waitress.
It's true. She is peak power.
She is peak power.
Yep. And with no pay. Peak power with no pay.
That is the top of the list.
It's true.
When we got married in Kauai, we went to this after like dinner and everything. There was a smaller group of people that wanted to go to this tiki bar. The bouncer, Lauren's in a wedding dress, and the bouncer tried to block us at the door. And the bar was empty. It wasn't like it was crowded. Oh, we got a limitation with the fire department or something like that. It was literally like he's standing blocking the door. And we're like, hey, can we go in? And he was like, oh, you guys, how many do you have in your group? We're like, I don't know, like 8, 10. I'm not sure. Well, you're going to have to wait a minute. And he's like looking inside and trying to do his thing. We're like, what are you doing? And then he's like, well, where are you guys? He literally said, where are you guys from? And then my buddy, kind of who thinks he's the most charismatic, starts trying to have a dialogue with the guy, and he makes friends with everybody. So he made friends real quickly, and him and the bartender or him and the bouncer like came from the same town or something like that, and he greased the wheels really quickly, and then we were in. But we got inside, we sat down, we're like,
it was empty.
What was that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I will say that on the rank of peak power tripping, for like the power trip versus the amount of power and or what you make, the bouncer is top of that pyramid. The bouncer, this has happened to me so many times too, of like the real shakedown from the bouncer, the real like hard vibe, blah blah blah. Finally, they'll allow you the pleasure of going in to spend money, and you go in and it's literally empty.
Yeah. It's like they were always going to let you in. They do this complicated dance of reasons why they're not going to let you in, but it's a foregone conclusion that they want your money, and the only way they pay the bartender or the only way they pay the bouncer is by getting your money. So he has to let you in. You just have to go through this stupid ass dance.
It's really dumb. Like at big club, I get, right? At like the one that's hot that everybody wants to be in, where it's that bouncer then has a job to both create the vibe inside to, that's like a skill. The bouncer at the bar nobody's at, there's no skill there. You're just you're being obtuse.
Exactly. TSA people can probably lumped into this conversation. Parking enforcement people could be lumped into this conversation.
The TSA person who's like tripping on TSA power is hard to deal with, because also they have behind them the law that says you're going to jail if they deem you being that you are threatening to them somehow. They can slap you right with jail.
They don't even have to deem that. If they could make your day miserable simply by going through every pocket of every bag, you know what I mean? Making you late for your flight that way. If they want to follow the letter of the law, they could make your day miserable for no reason whatsoever.
TSA people. But TSA people, I also feel really, really bad for TSA people.
Oh my God, they deal with the worst people, the worst of humanity.
They deal with people who are on the brink of losing it, with like families and like, I mean, I reckon that the tension is such now between TSA and the passenger who's on the very brink of going insane.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like sort of Russia and America repeat Cold War, where we both had nukes, but we're just reaching a detente because we have all the nukes pointed at us. TSA guys like, I don't want to make you go insane. Insane person's like, I don't want to make you go, you're insane either. And so it's just everybody's staring each other down.
Exactly. But the TSA, couple that with, they're not earning enough money to make it worth any of this hassle.
Absolutely.
So they're just
not.
like, test me.
Yeah.
Test me to push that button.
Oh,
miserable.
Man.
Well, hey, we got another grumpy call coming in from the listener line.
David and Chaz, Dan the Weatherman here, and if I've learned 3 things in life, number 1 is always set goals. Number 2 is always sit spinkle at your own home, but never in public. And number 3 is the grumpiest of grumpy locals always stand on the boardwalk and complain about the waves before 20 minutes later inevitably going out and surfing anyways. So, barrel or not, getting together in a group on the boardwalk and complaining about the surf before paddling out. All right, call me back. Keep working. David.
Dan, is Dan legit a weatherman? Or Dave?
Was it David? No idea, dude.
That guy had such a perfect weatherman voice. If he's not a weatherman, he should quit what he's doing and become a weatherman. But I'm going to say full barrel on complaining. I think complaining, being grumpy and grouchy and ill-tempered and complaining is like a real dying art in this world of positivity that we live in this land where all things are good, where participation trophies for everyone. It's really important to just sit there and grouse before you start. Wind's on it, shit, and then go paddle.
Well, let me ask you this. You might not see where I'm going with this, but I'll bring it back. When you and your wife get home from a social function, do you both gossip and vent and complain about the event to one another?
It's one of the funnest parts of that.
It's one of
the like best parts of going to an event is to make fun when you come home I think doing that, having that as a principle makes the really exceptional events, keeps them really exceptional, right? The ones where you go to an event, you come home and say, that was awesome. Like everyone was blah, blah, blah. Like those ones, and as should be, special things should be special. You should have like 1, maybe 2 of those kinds of events every so often where you come home and think that was beautiful. The rest of them need to be grumbled about.
Well, that's even the special ones. you still want to be like, can you believe that Karen, blah, 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 her and her husband, I don't think they're even talking right now. You're like, whatever, that gossipy. I mean, it is virtual pillow talk for us where we are like, I mean, it's usually in the car ride home. It's not, doesn't go beyond that, but
it's fun.
If I could paint the picture, it would be us with our pillow, laying on our pillows, staring at each other horizontally going, I know. Can you see can you even believe what she was wearing? But my point of this is that left to my own devices, the grumpy thing, I agree with you. The grumpy is a valve, like being able to complain about the thing is just a valve to release the pressure. I don't actually feel angry about any of this stuff. I just want to talk crap about it. And then I can move on with my day happily. Right. But left to my own devices, I will perpetuate the negativity, and the negativity will start to become the lens that I see the world through. But I think that with the spouse, there is a reverb bounce back where it's strictly going to live here momentarily. And then it dissipates into the ether and we move on and we just feel happy about everything.
And maybe that's the point though, is when negativity is also funny or amusing, because in that case, you're not like actually mad at those people. You're not actually feeling angst about
they're
that.
our friends.
Yeah. You're just like, you're just talking. So it's, the negativity then is amusing. And when negativity is amusing, I think it cancels it out. I think that's what takes it and pops it off to the ether. So if you're complaining on the boardwalk about with your bros and you're being amused by your complaints, like if you're actually pissed at the surf is bad or whatever, then you have there's something to look at there. If you're actually angry.
And I think that the difference here with the caller is that he said, they always go out and surf afterwards.
Sure.
Because I know of a ton of grumpy locals that never go out and surf.
That's true.
They're the guys who used to surf. Yeah, they used to surf 20 years ago. And now they still show up and they sit in the parking lot complaining that the waves aren't exactly perfect, drinking coffee. I paddle out. I get back out of the water. They're still there complaining, sitting in the back of their car. In the trunk looking out.
The grumpy local person who like hangs on a fence for a whole session, like, and who knows how long they're there for. I mean, I suppose that's their social scene, so it's all fine and good, but I always just think, and there's, hanging out at the beach is not that bad, but where they're hanging, it's not like they're sitting in lawn, in their beach chairs down there, dipping their toes in the water. They're always, you're exactly right. They're in the parking lot. They are in a paved parking lot, sitting there, spending their time there.
Commiserating.
Commiserating. A weird place to do it, but I suppose to each their own.
Yeah.
Don't paddle out. Thanks for your service too, for being out of the water.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And probably deterring a few people along the way.
Hopefully you're giving enough side eye and enough, but just some newbie, some Val coming in is like, ooh, this doesn't feel safe.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, let's go to commercial break. I have an important PSA to read to you when we get back from commercial. And then, of course, we'll have Barrel or Not.
Let's do it.
Let's just, during commercial, give a quick bit of love to drinkag1.com/surf. We don't say it all the time, but we drink it all the time.
I mean, nonstop. The other day, wife wasn't feeling very good. She's on the athletic green. I mean, the AG1 now. And so I went up and said, do you want some AG1? And she said, no, I just want coffee this morning. And I was like, no wonder you're sick. You're never going to get better too. You were sick now. You're going to be sick tomorrow. You're going to be sick for a week. That kind of attitude.
Getting back on track is fine, but it's preventative maintenance. You know what I mean?
On track. You never ever get off track. There's no point in getting off track. It is the easiest thing to do. It is 100% the easiest thing to do and the best thing to do. And it makes you feel good, truly. And I'm not even kidding. Some days I will have eaten badly. I will have drank too much. I will have done whatever. I will go to bed thinking, man, it was an unhealthy day. But I started with AG1.
Exactly. So you can have make bad decisions, have too many calories, that sort of thing. But if you're still getting the nutrients that you need, you're better off, right? So it can't be 100% bad things in your body. It can be too much bad things, but as long as you're getting the nutrients that you need, you're better off. And then also there's probiotics that are great for your gut. So when you are putting all that bad stuff in, your gut at least has a fighting chance to process that type of stuff. Important news as we go into the holiday season. So drinkag1.com/surf. Research it for yourself, but at least go through our portal to support us. And then when you finally make that purchase, you will be supporting yourself as well. drinkag1.com/surf. Chaz Smith, we're back.
Exciting.
You want to hear some feedback from our beloved listeners in Hawaii?
Yes, please.
Aloha, David and Chaz. On the last 2 episodes, you guys have spoken about the Israel-Hamas situation and the devastation and destruction caused by said conflict. But I would also like to remind everybody that Lahaina still needs your help, even though it's not in the news cycle any longer. I'm attaching a video for the 2 of you to see. I moved north to Napili years ago, but this is the neighborhood that I used to live in. It's where my daughter came home from the hospital after being born, where she took her first steps. It's where this is actually my friend's home. The only difference between when I shot this video and now is that the county is putting up a fence so that you actually can't see it as clearly from the highway. But it's a wasteland that used to be people's homes. Across the street is where my daughter's grandmother used to live. Looks even more like a war zone. She was so emotionally impacted that she actually moved from Maui permanently. The reason that I write this is because the people here still need your help. The Maui chapter of the HSA, basically our version of the NSSA, has been impacted financially by this disaster also. So some of their key sponsors simply no longer exist. Being a parent, I can tell you that these kids have been through more than enough, and they tremendously benefit from the HSA. I don't want to go into specifics, but it's been really rough. It honestly breaks my heart to even begin to think about the children of Lahaina and how they could possibly lose anything else. HSA Maui is currently accepting donations to help offset the impact from the fires. If anyone out there wanted to help, or if they have a company that wants to become a sponsor, that would help as well. Here is the link, hsamaui.org/sponsors. Here's a link to the Facebook post. If Chaz wants to post the links on Beach Grit, I think this would be a tremendous support for the Hawaiian surfing community, and I would be more than appreciative. Thank you guys. Keep up the work. Mahali nui loa, Chris.
Chris, consider it done, and thank you for getting word out. It is exactly right. The news cycle spins away, and we all pay attention to what we pay attention to, and especially those in Southern California. We're unimpacted by anything right now. There's no fire raging through, and typically we are, right? Like, I mean, think if you're living in Southern California, it's a fairly an existence that doesn't see much trouble, right?
Yeah, true.
And so we'll pay attention to whatever, and then the news cycle will change. But thank you for the reminder. And yeah, I'm going to give some money to the HSA, and I will definitely post about it.
I interviewed, I'm going to publish it next week, a guy named Eddie Garcia, who's in Maui, and he does this regenerative farms, and he's been in business for a long time, but he's redirected the whole focus of his business to building tiny homesteads for people who lost their houses in the fire. And so it's different. A tiny home is what you know it is, but a tiny homestead is actually a self-sustaining. They can grow their own food. They can live off the grid entirely. Their food supply, their solar powered, all this kind of stuff. It's incredible. And they're built from shipping containers. And he got Pasha, one of the big shipping container companies, to donate a bunch and then offer them available for purchase at a very, very reduced rate. So he's building these homesteads that people can, I think 6 people can live in it. There's an attached kitchen and an attached bathroom situation, and they're movable. So you can plant it on Auntie's property for now, but when you then get access to your Lahaina property back, which it's going to take years to build on once you get that property back, they can move the homestead and put it there. If you then eventually build your home back, you can actually use the homestead as an Airbnb potentially down the road. So it's this incredible project.
Incredible. I can't wait to hear that podcast.
Yeah, he's doing really, really cool work.
That is awesome.
Okay, so barrel or nah, the first one comes from a listener yet again. So let me play that.
Chaz and David, barrel or nah, scuffing up your wax with a little sand. Been doing it on and off my entire surf life. Had no idea until I saw a friend doing it as a grom and realized that it's like, oh yeah, traction. There we go. But nowadays, something I don't know. I just don't do it. Sometimes I do it. I don't know. So, barrel or not, do you put a little sand in your wax for a little extra traction before you paddle out? All right. Keep up the work, boys. You.
The little discussed action in surfing.
I'm going to say full barrel. I don't do it, but I'm going to start now. It's these little things, right? It's the little touches that define the surfing life. And this is fully one of them, even though I don't know if it works at all, but getting down there, scooping up a little wet sand, rubbing it in your board, it's just another little thing that says, I'm part of this community. I'm going barrel.
It absolutely works. It's absolutely barrel. I have done this my entire surfing life. Nobody's ever discussed it. Nobody's ever written about it in a magazine. It is simply something that you notice through osmosis, and then you do. And it's super effective, but I don't do it 100% of the time. You know, if you wax your board, then you're good to go. If you comb the wax, you're good to go. But occasionally I'll find myself getting into the water and realizing I don't have that fresh layer of traction. And that's where the sand comes in really handy.
It's funny that I mean, I do it then too. It's when I get in the water and I realize this wax is super old and like I don't want to scrape it with my fingernails. That's gross.
That doesn't work for me.
Yeah, no, it's gross. So then that's when I will do the whack or the sand rub. I've never thought that it was working actually. I just thought this is something to do. This is at least an attempt to give myself a fighting chance to wreck a wave.
It works if you put enough elbow grease in it. Like, and for the listeners who, I mean, I presume everybody knows exactly what we're talking about, but yeah, it has to be wet sand. It's once you get into ankle or, knee deep water, because you need that little bit of lubrication in the sand to fully get it around, but you got to put some elbow grease into it and really work it into the wax.
Okay. Like it. Barrel. I knew it was a barrel. And now I'm happy. I'm happy that everyone knows it's a barrel.
Yeah. Highly recommended. Barrel or not, signing a contract without reading any of the fine print.
Oh, I mean, it's a barrel. I guess everyone does it, but man, it's not cool. Fine print is not cool.
Has anybody in the history of human existence read every word of a contract?
I think the only time that I have done it is not me doing it, but it's like contracts with publishers or whatever, right? Where there's like in the fine print is important stuff, but credit cards, anything you like, imagine what you've signed up for, everything you've signed up for, anything that you have signed your name to. Like yesterday was on the train on the Amtrak up to Los Angeles. I guarantee that when I purchased that ticket, there was so much fine print about stuff in there that, of course, I'm not going to read that. I'm going to say reading the fine print is a waste of time. Just trust. Just go out and trust big corporate America that they have your best interest in mind.
I'm saying even with a mortgage, a mortgage loan, it could be getting some medical procedure. It could be the most important paperwork of your life. Nobody reads it. And in fact, you trust the person who printed it out to tell you. There will be this giant portion of text. And they'll be like, oh, this basically says that you're allowing us to do the procedure.
Yeah.
All right. Sign it. What's the next one say? And then they tell you a short version of that. You're like, all right. And you just sign it. Nobody reads anything. I bet lawyers don't even read this stuff.
It's true. But I'm going to say it's barrel. I'm going to say, let's continue to believe that big pharma, that big hospital, that big oil, all of them, really at the end of the day, they care about people.
They have my best interest at heart.
Always.
Now, here's the reason why I'm saying that it is barrel to not read it, is because if I had read every contract that was put in front of me, I wouldn't even be here to record the podcast. I'd still be reading. You know what I mean?
That's
like
the truth.
from my cell phone bill that comes through every month, all of it has a 20-page contract attached to it. I would be reading 18 hours a day.
Not only would you be wasting your time, you would get to that line that would be actually scary in there that says, we also own your son. And you would not sign. And so then
I wouldn't have
have a
any of the
cell phone.
services.
You wouldn't do any, you wouldn't be able to do anything. You would have to live. And I thank you so much for his name, Chris Garcia, who's building homesteads.
Oh, Eddie Garcia.
Eddie Garcia. You'd have to be on one of those homesteads fully off the grid, except I bet if you buy that homestead, there's fine print in there too.
They're gifted to you, in fact. No charge.
Definitely, though, if you're getting gifted something, you're getting gifted a lot of fine print there.
For sure. There is probably a contract involved there. And the crazy thing is, the more complicated they make it, the less likely I am to read it.
Yeah, of course not. I mean, and you like, yeah, we should have a big fine print thing. And like any listener of the show has signed our fine print from here on out. In that fine print, I'm going to get to it today. I'm going to get writing fine print.
Funny thing is, they make certain parts of the contract in regular size print.
Yeah.
And then the most important, or like I don't know, legally binding details
is tiny
smaller.
size.
Yeah. Like, what's that? You trying to save paper?
Yeah.
Like, what is that about? That now feels very, very nefarious.
But you got to go along, get along, man. You've got to live.
Yeah. All right. Final barrel or not comes from a listener. He says, barrel or not, driving a vehicle that makes you look like a cop. In my country, or I guess county, this would mean driving a newer model white Ford Explorer with blue surf racks.
I get so mad when I get tricked into slowing down because there is a white Dodge Charger or whatever behind me. Like, it is really, but I guess now that I think about it, when you were speeding and you see those lights behind you, or you see that distinctive silhouette and you think, oh no, busted. Slow down, comes closer, and you're waiting. And then you see that it's not a cop. The relief there is also wonderful, though. It matches the terror of just like, feels so good. But I'm going to say it is no barrel. It's rude to your fellow man to do that. People should not buy cop-looking cars.
Well, I feel like there was a period of time, like the Cutlass Classic or whatever it was of our childhood was mainly just for police officers. It was almost like Chevy made a vehicle for the police.
I think it was called the Police Enforcer, in fact. I mean, and they had a similar body style. I feel they produced a car that was similar, but the only way you would see a citizen driving a cop car was if they had bought that cop car at an auction or whatever, right? There was always the kid in town who had the cop car still with the light on the spotlight coming out of the, all like just a decommissioned cop car, which was rude too. But that kid was typically, in my experience, was such like a Hessian that his cop car was so Hessianed out that even from miles away, that's not a cop. That's the kid who bought a cop car.
That kid, I'd like to know where that kid is today, by the way.
Yeah, the kid who bought a cop car.
There's not one of them that is like a orthopedic surgeon.
No, if dear callers, for sure one of you have bought a decommissioned cop car, please call in and tell us what your job is. Tell us your income, how you're doing in life.
I do want the job. I mean, the job works in a record store, but I also want the criminal record. How many times have you been arrested and what were the offenses?
Please, dear caller.
Yeah. Animal abuse in the back of said cop car. But then there was a point where obviously they started using the Dodge Charger. They've used, like the listener said, the Ford Explorer. And then there's the unmarked Ford Explorer. So it is painted black. Like, it doesn't have the white and black two-tone. It's just black. There's no sirens on the top. But as it gets closer, you see through the windshield, there is a siren on the dashboard. And there's a cage in the back and all. And you're like, what the hell, dude? You can't be doing this to me.
And the fact that I feel that municipalities too, different cop districts, they used to exactly buy their one cop car that was uniform at least in that one district. I feel that it was uniform everywhere, but it was at least in that large city or whatever. There was one. No, it's a mixed bag, man. You can have like a weird Mustang as a cop car. You can have like all
Chevy
kinds
Impala.
Chevy, all kinds of different stuff. You can never really see a cop coming. What I'm glad about, I suppose, in Southern California at least, no very rarely, like down, if I know exactly where in the North County region I'm not supposed to speed because a sheriff will post up there giving speeding tickets, but very rarely will the sheriffs or local cops give speeding tickets. The only real ones you got to worry about, I feel, are the CHP, California Highway Patrol, whose whole job is speeding tickets. I can't believe that stinking Chips, the show Chips, back in the day, made the California Highway Patrol seem cool. They're like riding motorcycles and being cool and
busting drug rings.
Come to find out, stinking CHP only exist to give tickets. They're like the meter maids of law enforcement. That's all they do. They're not busting anyone. They're busting speeders. They're rude speed busters. Nasty. And we thought they were cool. Or at least I did. Shame on Hollywood.
We really got bait and switched from our hoodwinked. Well, this question was directed at the person who drives the vehicle that the police use. So we can't exactly level all of our blame at the police department, who just wants a vehicle that works for their needs. Really, we need to point at the soccer mom who's buying the Ford Explorer, knowing that the police department is also driving that vehicle.
Exactly. If you're car shopping, it's not like there's one car, and it's not like the police car is a cool one, right? Like if you really want that Ford, whatever it is, like the Chevy, what is the big one I see these days? Whatever. If you
Suburban?
want that, if you like for the
Yukon.
cop one though, like the whatever it is, if you know, everybody knows that cop car. If you're shopping for a car, just don't get that car, man. There's another version or option of that car that's as good or better than the one you got your eye on. It's not like that's the car, man. And like sometimes when the cops try to get the cool car, it's always so annoying too. When they get like the new model, I mean, I think they were for a while rocking like the new model Charger.
Yeah, they do. For sure they do.
Which is like, and I could see like a musclehead car guy like being, that Dodge Charger is sick though. But sorry, it's not sick anymore. Cops drive it.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to, even if you own that car and then the cops next year decide that's their car,
you got to sell it.
Sell it immediately.
It's hard, and you're probably going to take a loss, but you just got to do it.
It's part of being in a society. This is what you do for your fellow man.
Exactly.
No question about it.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, glad we solved another of the world's problems today.
Man, just think, if we did this show daily, I bet we could tick through the entire world's problems in a couple years. I think we could get through everything.
Yeah, I think so too. We should prioritize the Middle East conflict.
Yeah, that should be next.
Over cop cars. That deserves a little more of our attention, probably.
That's true.
I haven't studied up on it, so who am I to say? Yeah,
next week.
Yeah, I'm no Middle East expert, but all right. Well, hey, great show, beachgrit.com. I didn't even ask you. I didn't even prep any True Grit segments because I have no idea what's going on in the surf world. I don't know. Is there anything important to discuss?
Trying to think here. Matthew Perry died.
A lot of Matthew Perry articles I saw.
Matthew Perry's yes, unforeseen, and nobody knew Matthew Perry was so tied into the surf world, I guess. But now
how is he?
Dead?
No, I mean, how is he tied to the surf world? He's not doing good. How is he? He's not great right now. I don't know if you heard.
How is Matthew Perry? Matthew Perry beat up as a kid. He beat up Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and Justin Trudeau is a surfer. So that's one way that he's tied in. Matthew Perry denigrated Keanu Reeves in his book, and then had to apologize to him. And while Keanu Reeves himself is not a surfer, Keanu Reeves played one of the greatest surfing characters of all time in Johnny Utah, and so he's tied in there as well. Got it. Two big ties.
I have two big ties as well. Number one is people have told me that I look like Matthew Perry at times.
Great.
My dentist's wife being one of them.
Oh yeah, that would be That would be a great compliment or not,
I know.
depending on the Matthew Perry that is being discussed.
Funny. I tell people that as well. I'm
Yeah.
like, you talking about the coked out one?
Yeah,
The overweight one?
Yeah,
Like
which
the
Matthew Perry?
bloated?
The peak Matthew Perry?
Right.
Yeah.
Hopefully not current Matthew Perry.
When was the last time you got Matthew Perry?
Literally, my dentist's wife tells me every time I go to the dentist. So every 6 months.
You go to the dentist every 6 months?
Yeah.
Man, I cannot literally remember the last time I went to the dentist. It's been years and years upon years.
Well, that opens up a whole new world of barrel or Nas for us in the future weeks. The other tie to Matthew Perry is I knew a girl who connected with him on Tinder and then dated him for a period of time. He would only have sex with his shirt on.
Oh, I'm bringing this up. This is going to be this beach grit. But was that during the fat years?
This was like 5 years ago.
Were those the fat years?
I think so. And like he got into plastic surgery and stuff, so he didn't look great.
Okay.
I think there were fat years. So yes, it was related to that probably.
That's sad.
But literally like dated him for months and just
she
never saw him without his shirt on.
And she never once saw him shirtless.
No.
Wow.
No.
Tough.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad. Ultimately, when you think about it, it's sad that somebody with that level of adoration, full acceptance, just more acceptance than most human beings ever experience in their life, and adoration. And then, of course, wealth. Yep. And all of it is still has low self-esteem or low enough self-esteem and self-worth to feel that way. It's sad.
I mean, that's the gist that I got of that whole, or the Friends, whatever, reunion. They got together and talked about blah, blah, blah. And I didn't see it, but saw the headline that was like Matthew Perry felt that he was unworthy the entire time, that he thought he wasn't funny enough and all of this stuff. Yeah. Low self-esteem. I wish we still had BetterHelp.com or whatever as a sponsor. I wish that I didn't blow them off by talking about lottery winners.
I know we could be doing good. We could still be doing good.
We could be, but we're not. Now we just sit and
make fun of the dead. Unfortunately, it's really gotten dark. Rest in peace, Matthew Perry. My doppelganger.
Yep, rip. I hope Steve Buscemi never dies. Buscemi, that's who I looked like once.
Amazing. I could see it a little bit.
I only got it once, but it really stuck with me.
Yeah, I could see it. Now you just get Luke Stedman.
I get Stead.
For those who know who he is. All right. Well, hey, enough banter. We will be back next week with an all-new episode. But until then,
bon voyage.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.